Two men, same job, same $76,000 salary, same apartment complex, same grocery store, same monthly bills. On a Tuesday in March, they both get hit with the same car repair. $1,200. Brake pads, rotors, labor. Not a small thing, not a catastrophic thing, just Tuesday. The first man takes his car on Wednesday morning. He pays the bill, drives home, and by dinner, he's not thinking about it anymore. Done. Next. The second man, his name is Dave. He's awake at 3 a.m. that same Tuesday night, running numbers in his head. Which bill can wait until next week? Whether his brother might be able to loan him something without making it weird. Whether it's smarter to put it on the card that's already sitting at $4,200 or the one he thought he'd finally stopped using. Same income, same car problem, completely different Tuesday night. There's one specific number that separates those two men and their two completely different experiences of money. And I'll tell you exactly what that number is, but here's the thing. It's probably not what you think it is. My name is Charlie, and I spend way too much time thinking about money, financial psychology, and why some people build wealth while others stay stuck doing everything right. If you're new here, this channel is about the part of personal finance that the spreadsheets don't cover. The psychology, the behavior, the reason, knowing what to do, and actually doing it are two completely different problems. If that's the kind of content that actually helps you, hit subscribe. We publish videos like this multiple times a week, and I'd hate for you to miss the ones that might actually change something for you. Now, the number that separates those two men, it's $10,000, not $50,000, not a year's worth of expenses, not some retirement milestone that feels like a fantasy from where most people are standing right now. $10,000 in a savings account. Here's what I want you to understand about that number, because this is the whole point of this video. $10,000 is not just a savings milestone, it is a psychological threshold. And those are two completely different things. Below $10,000, you're playing defense every single day. Every unexpected expense is a problem. Every financial decision gets made from a place of pressure and scarcity. Above $10,000, something shifts. You start playing offense, not because $10,000 is a lot of money. In the grand scheme of a retirement plan, it's a relatively small number, but because of what it does to your brain. I'll tell you exactly what that is in a few minutes. But first, I need to clear something up. Most people hear $10,000 in savings and they think the benefit is security, and they're right. It is. But that's the least interesting thing it does. The real change isn't in your bank account, it's in your behavior. Here's what most personal finance content gets wrong about savings. They treat it like a destination. Hit the number, you're safe, move on. But $10,000 doesn't just protect you from emergencies. It changes the way you think. It changes the decisions you make. It changes what you say yes to and what you finally feel comfortable saying no to. The money doesn't just sit there, it quietly rewires how you operate. And if that sounds like an exaggeration, it's not. There's actual research behind it. Here's where it gets really interesting, and this is the part almost nobody talks about, because it's not really about the money at all. A few years ago, researchers at Harvard and Princeton, Sendil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir, published work on what they called the psychology of scarcity. And the core finding was this: when your mental bandwidth is consumed by financial stress, your cognitive function measurably declines. Not because you're not smart, not because you're not capable, but because your brain is working overtime on financial triage every single day, and that leaves less processing power for everything else. Think about what that actually means in real life. When you have $400 in savings and a $1,200 car repair shows up, your brain doesn't just feel stressed, it shifts into a kind of tunnel vision. Every decision you make gets filtered through one question. Can I afford this right now? And that filter is exhausting. It narrows your thinking. It makes you worse at your job, worse in your relationships, worse at making the kind of long-range decisions that actually build wealth. Read that again. Financial stress doesn't just feel bad. It makes you measurably less effective. There's another layer here that research captures really well. Below the threshold, below that $10,000 mark, every financial decision activates something psychologists call loss aversion. It's the phenomenon where the pain of losing something is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining the same amount. When you're operating on a thin margin, every dollar feels like a potential loss. Your brain is running the same mental calculation over and over. What am I giving up to do this? That's an exhausting way to live. And it keeps people making conservative, short-term decisions that feel safe but compound into long-term stagnation. Now flip it. When you have $10,000 sitting in a savings account, that car repair is an inconvenience, not a crisis. Your brain never shifts into scarcity mode. You pay it, you move on, and your mental bandwidth stays available for things that actually matter. That's the first thing $10,000 does. It frees up your brain. But here's what nobody calculates. What does it actually cost you in real dollars to not have a savings buffer? The Fed tracks this. The FDIC tracks this. And the numbers are not small. The average American with less than $1,000 saved pays somewhere between $1,800 and $2,400 per year in what economists call the poverty premium. That's overdraft fees, late fees from bills that hit before the paycheck does, high interest borrowing on emergency expenses, whether that's a credit card at 22% APR or a payday loan, and deferred maintenance. The $200 repair that becomes a $900 repair because you couldn't afford to fix it in February. That's $150 to $200 a month, just from not having a cushion, not from spending on anything fun, just from operating without a buffer. Now here's the other side of that math. A $10,000 balance in a high-yield savings account at today's rates, around 4.5% APY, generates roughly $450 per year, passively, just sitting there. So the real math isn't $10,000 saved versus $10,000 not saved. It's $450 in passive interest versus $1,800 to $2,400 in annual fees and penalties. The gap between those two positions is real money, $2,000 to $3,000 a year, every year. And the path to get there? If you automated $400 a month into a dedicated high-yield savings account, you'd hit $10,000 in 25 months, not a decade. Not a retirement timeline. 25 months. That's 2 years. If you're 37 right now, you're 39 when you hit it. If you're 42, you're 44. And here's what happens to every number that comes after it. The retirement accounts, the investment accounts, the home equity. Once you stop draining your margin to cover emergencies, the math shifts, not because the interest rate changed, because you did. So what actually changes when you cross $10,000? Let me be specific. You can negotiate from a position of strength. When you have no savings, you take the job offer you get because you can't afford to wait for a better one. When you have $10,000 behind you, you have runway. You can counteroffer, you can walk away and look for something better. The account balance changes your leverage, even in conversations that have nothing to do with savings. You can say no to overtime you resent. You can stop working the second job that's burning you out. Not because $10,000 makes you rich, it doesn't, but because it removes the desperation that makes bad decisions feel necessary. You can shop insurance properly. People with no savings take the highest deductible possible to lower their monthly premium. Then when something happens, they can't cover the deductible. With $10,000, you can choose the insurance structure that actually makes financial sense instead of the one that just feels survivable month to month. You can let the credit card sit at zero, because you're not reaching for it every time life happens. And here's one more that most people never think about. You can take advantage of timing. People without a savings buffer buy when they have to. When the car breaks down, they take whatever financing is available. When the appliance dies, they pay whatever the store is charging that day. People with a buffer can wait. They can shop. They can buy the refrigerator in December when it's 30% off instead of the Tuesday it stops working. That flexibility across a lifetime of purchases is worth real money. The $10,000 isn't just money, it's options. And options change your behavior. Your behavior changes your outcomes. That's the whole chain. Now here's the part that kills most people right before they make it. The almost there drain. It happens constantly. Someone builds up $6,000, maybe $7,000. They can feel the finish line, and then they pull it. Sometimes for something that genuinely feels like an emergency, a car, a home repair, a flight home for a family situation. But a lot of the time, it's lifestyle creep wearing an emergency's clothing. A vacation they'd been putting off, furniture for the new place, a car upgrade that was a want dressed up as a need. They reset to zero. And the psychological damage from resetting to zero is significant because now it feels even harder to start again. The second trap is just as quiet. They get to $10,000, real congratulations, genuinely, and they leave it in a regular checking account where it slowly evaporates. A little extra spending here, a slightly looser month there. The number drifts back down to $8,000, then $6,000, and they never quite understand how. The fix for both of these is the same. The savings account has to be separate bank if possible. No debit card attached. Enough friction that getting to it requires a decision, not a reflex. Out of sight, out of reach, still yours, just not convenient. Here's what I want you to take from this. $10,000 is not the finish line, it's the starting line. The same psychological shift that makes $10,000 powerful. The reduction of scarcity, the expansion of options, the change in how you make decisions. That same shift accelerates everything that comes after it. The next $10,000 comes faster. The retirement contributions start to feel possible. The decisions get better. Confidence compounds, not because you became a different person, because the pressure lifted long enough for you to think clearly. Here's another way to think about it. Compound interest is real and it's powerful. But there's a second kind of compounding that almost nobody talks about. Behavioral compounding. Better decisions lead to better outcomes. Better outcomes create more confidence. More confidence produces better decisions. The loop accelerates. And for most people, that loop cannot start until the scarcity pressure lifts enough to change behavior. The first number that does that, for most people, in most situations, is $10,000. The people who build real wealth didn't start with a perfect financial plan. They started with enough of a buffer that their brains could finally work the way they were supposed to. The plan got better after that. It starts at $10,000. Remember Dave? 37 years old, $76,000 a year, $400 in savings on a Tuesday night that cost him a full night of sleep. Dave didn't overhaul his entire financial life. He didn't track every dollar or cut every subscription or start a side hustle. He opened a high-yield savings account on a Thursday night and set up an automatic transfer of $300. Moved the morning after every payday before he could spend it or rationalize it away. He didn't feel it leaving. It was already gone before his weekend started. 28 months later, he had $10,000. And one Tuesday, his car needed $1,100 in repairs. He called the shop, paid the bill, picked up the car after work, and went home to dinner. He didn't lose a single night of sleep. That's what changes, not the number, the feeling of not being one bad Tuesday away from a crisis. Most people will watch this video and think about it. They'll agree with everything I just said, and then they'll close the tab and nothing will change. Not because they don't want to, because they'll wait for the right moment, for a little more breathing room for next month. That's the pattern that keeps people stuck. The right moment is right now, not because the timing is perfect, it never is, but because the account has to exist before it can do anything for you. Here's your one step. Today, not this weekend, today, open a high-yield savings account at a separate bank from your checking account. Set one automatic transfer for whatever you can move right now, even $50. The account existing is the beginning. The automation makes it inevitable. And 20-something months from now, you'll pay a bill and realize you never even thought about it. That's the whole thing. That's what $10,000 does.